Hi, Ezra. Welcome back to Peopleizer. So we had a first interview with you around your move from Canada to Brazil. And because we had some questions from the people who watched the first interview, say, okay, let's go in depth actually. Let's do an in-depth interview on South Brazil. Let's give them even more value, even more information so that people know what to expect if they were to move to South Brazil. So welcome back.
Yeah, thank you, Julian. Thank you for having me here. I'm pretty happy to be back and to know that your friends from Peopleizer are liking our conversation. That's good.
Cool. So what we will do for the audience to be aware of is that we've listed a number of questions and we'll just go through those questions. Basically, we'll put ourselves in the shoes of someone who wants to move to South Brazil and we'll need to discover and research the place. So how to do this? Let's start with the first question. What does South Brazil look like from an environmental perspective? What should I expect, basically? Do I expect to see large cities, lots of green, mountain, flatland? Just giving an overview to the people.
Yeah, well, South Brazil, it's a very interesting country exactly because it's diverse in terms of landscaping. We have very nice Caribbean-like beaches in the shore with big cities, right? So there are large cities in the coast, mainly the capitals of the three states, Paraná, Santa Catarina, and Porto Alegre, and Rio Grande do Sul.
And you
Curitiba.
know what? Let's show the people also the map at the same time. Give me 1 second.
Sure. Yeah.
This is this one so that people can also follow with us. This is so this is Brazil. Okay.
Yeah.
Brazil is a pretty big country. So this is Google Earth, the view of Brazil. If we go to Google Maps, so the red area here is the border of Brazil. And when we are talking about South Brazil, we're talking about, so you are in the state of Santa Catarina, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I am. Yeah.
So which is basically almost the last state south, right? The last state being state of Rio Grande do Sul. Yeah.
It neighbors with the last one, which is Rio Grande do Sul, the very last one, south.
Yeah.
So as I was saying, actually Curitiba is the capital of the Paraná, which is north from Santa Catarina. It's not. It's in the countryside. This city.
So which city? Which city on the map?
Curitiba. Curitiba.
Oh, okay. Here.
Yeah,
okay.
Right
Curitiba.
there. This one is a very, very interesting city. It's 4.5 million people living there. But it's considered one of the the most sustainable city in the world. Although it's a huge city, it's a big urban center, but it's surrounded by parks and green and people biking everywhere. It's amazing place. It's really safe to live there, and the weather it's nice. It's a bit cold in the winter, so people like the weather because it's a high altitude. It's a 900 around 900 meters above the sea level, and the main feature of this city is the public transportation. It's a worldwide reference for the urban transportation.
Okay.
Regarding connectivity of buses and bus lines, you can go everywhere in the city. You don't need a car to move around in this city. You can do the whole thing by bus.
Okay. So is there any downside of this city, or everything is perfect?
Oh no, there's nothing perfect, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing perfect. I mean, it's a big city, so they have traffic for sure, right? They have traffic jams, and they have some of the problems that most of the big cities has, right? Like the traffic jam and a little bit of homelessness here and there in specific neighborhoods. But in general, there's no favela. For example, Brazil is known by the favelas, right? Especially in Rio. But here in the southern Brazil, even the big cities, they have a low income neighborhoods, right? Where it's more humble. The houses aren't, big houses, and people are more humble. But normally, on those cities, there's no favela specifically, right?
Okay.
But in general, we have. I mean, Curitiba is considered one of the best cities to live in Brazil. It's compared to some of the European and North American cities in terms of crime rates and those stuff. So it's not perfect, but it's a very nice place,
Okay.
considering the size.
So
Then, if you go south, you go to Florianopolis, which is the capital of Santa Catarina, where I am right now. It's in the shore.
okay.
That's where the Caribbean-like beaches are, and it's amazing. It's an island, as you can see. It's known as the Magic Island because there are like 42 beaches, and they're blue and clear water. It's really cool. It's really nice to live there.
Mm.
And it's not a big city, although it's the capital. It's just 500,000 people living there, so it doesn't feel like you're in a big city, right? So
I read online it's 1.1 million, something like that, as per the latest statistics. So it's
yeah, the greater area, yes, because it includes the satellite cities, right? The cities around.
okay.
So they sometimes they add the number of the population, but the city itself, the municipality of Florianopolis, is around 500,000.
Okay. And so south is basically an environment which is pretty green, right? It's like you've got
Yeah.
some large cities, but it's
Yeah.
mostly green land, right? And
Yes.
when you look at Google Earth, you see quite some relief, right? Some mountains and stuff like that. What should we expect basically in terms of terrain? Is it mostly flat land or?
Well, that's the main feature of the South, which made me and my wife amazed to come to this area, because in the shore in Santa Catarina, for example, in the shore, as you can see in the map there, it's pretty flat, right? It's very flat up to, let's say, from the shore up to maybe 2 or 3 hours driving eastward,
Okay.
westward, sorry. You reach the mountains, and then you can drive a little further to the countryside, and in a few hours you're reaching like 1,600, 1,700 meters above the sea level, and the climate and the weather is completely different. So in Santa Catarina, for example, we have the coldest city in Brazil. It goes down to -6, -7 in the winter. But at the same time, if you're in the shore, you're like in the summer. It's 12 in the in the winter. So in a few hours driving, you can reach snow if you want to drive. If you want to drive west, you can go up to the mountains, and in the landscape and
So
scenario.
let me pause a bit on that so that people understand. On the map, where so the coast is there, and where is the mountain area?
You see the border, right? You see this line? It's the canyons. We have lots of canyons here.
This one, yeah, here.
If you see this, yeah, exactly. That's where the canyons are.
Okay.
So it's flat to the right, towards the shore. It's
Yes.
flat,
Yeah.
and then you go up, and you reach 1,700 meters above the sea level.
Okay.
In a few hours. And the landscape is completely different. It's all covered in green. Yeah.
All right. So all this line here is the canyon, basically, right? Also going a bit here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are some famous national parks on the canyons. Those canyons you're seeing, they're all national parks. It's amazing to go there. I've been there once. The canyons look amazing. It's different from the Grand Canyon, because the Grand Canyon in the US, for example, it's all like there's no vegetation basically, right? It's all like a sand and rocks. But the canyons we have here, they're all covered in green. And waterfalls.
Yeah, it's really green. So in terms of so contrast in terms of temperature as well. So it's good to know, right? Because you will expect different kind of climate temperature according to the place you choose. But if we were to take, for instance, which city can we check to check the temperature? Florianopolis?
Yeah, for Florianopolis, it's normally the
Let's go to So I like to use Weather Spark for this so that people can, let me select it. So you see that, for instance, Florianopolis, and I want to compare that to also your own experience, because sometimes what we see online as a chart may not really be what you experience, but like minimum temperature 13 degrees, max of 29, 30.
Mhm.
So tell us a bit.
In summer. Yeah. So where I am right now, we just chose, my wife and I, we like a little bit of food, right? So we just decided to go up a little bit. We are 650 meters above the sea level. It's like the middle
Okay.
between the shore and the highest and the top of the plateau that we have here going west. So here we have mild, very mild temperature because it goes hot in the summer, like 32, 34, right? Some days, but the average is 28, 30. And then in the winter it goes down to 0 sometimes, but it stays around 10 and 8 or 10. So that's what we like. So we can have a bit of a firewood, you know, stay close to the fire in the winter.
So so it's basically the higher you go, the colder it will be in winter. Is it like this?
Yes, exactly. And actually, you're surrounded by nature, right? By green. So it's not that we're in the city. When you go west towards the countryside, there's lots of green space. The less cities and more rural areas. So the temperature goes down because it's covered in green, right?
Okay. Does that mean also that will be more humid?
More humid? Yes, it's humid. It's not like the Amazon, right? It's not like the maybe some Asian countries, but it's humid. Yeah, it's humid. It's that's probably for some people. I don't mind that much about the humidity. I'm used to it. It's not as for example, I'm from northeastern, right? From a province, and up there I was really bothered because it's humid and it's hot, so we're all the time sweating, and it's not good. But here it's humid, but we're not sweating all the time. It's milder. It's not that bad. But it's it's humid. I don't know how humid it is. Maybe 80% average, 70% average humidity rate.
Okay.
It's not as much.
And so it's more humid if you live by the sea or if you live inland?
I would say if you live by the sea, because I would say if you're in the shore, it's more humid.
Okay, all right. And in terms of wind?
Wind?
Yeah.
Well, we're in the Tropic of Capricorn here, right? So it's not as bad as in Florida, where the Tropic of Cancer is, but this spot here is where the cold and the hot masses, air masses, they meet each other, right?
Okay.
So sometimes we have heavy winds here, and every time you see more like a heavy thunderstorms in Brazil, it's normally in this region here in the south. But normally people is used to it, so we have ways to. So the weather forecast here is very accurate. So we know, for example, I was talking to my wife. She was saying this afternoon there will be a thunderstorm, and believe me, at 3 o'clock when the forecast says it's gonna have a thunderstorm, right? So there are some heavy winds. Normally the winds doesn't do much, but sometimes it's pretty hard, strong.
Okay. But so how does that translate for the people? So you've got a lot of water falling over a number of hours, or no, it can be raining for a few days. What's the pattern?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't last for a few days. Normally not. It's just an event, right?
Okay.
It's usually an event, and it takes. It doesn't even take hours. Most of the times. I mean, when it's raining, it can rain for the entire day, but it's rain, right? But a thunderstorm, it doesn't stay here for like 2 or like
Okay.
a hurricane in Florida, for example, that they have to evacuate the entire city. It's not even close to that. I mean,
Okay.
we can stay at home. It's fine. Sometimes there's a wind gust just blows and then it moves the shingles. But it's in my region here, it's just like that. But some places, depending on where you are, it goes further than that. Especially in more dense cities, there's no green around, so the wind blows and destroy a little bit of construction, roofs, this type of thing. But depends on where you are. Yeah.
Okay. Talking about the weather and climate, what about the bugs, right? Because sometimes it can be actually a pain, right? Be it flies or mosquitoes or whatsoever. What is it like?
Well, the bugs it surprisingly doesn't bother me that much. I mean, in the summer when it's hot, they they just pop out, right? They just come. My wife gets a bit bored sometimes with the mosquitoes, but it's not a lot. It's not a lot. I mean, we're surrounded by green here, right? There's plants and vegetation everywhere. And yeah, there are some bugs, but I would say that it's normal. I mean, you don't expect to come to a rural area and not find bugs, right?
No,
But
no,
it's
no,
not a
no,
lot.
of course, but we want to know a bit the level, right? Because, for instance, it might be a bit like in Mexico, right? There's some area in Mexico where it's totally okay, but some area are infested with mosquitoes, right? So if you're moving there and you actually don't know that and you don't like mosquitoes, then good luck for you.
The advantage of being here where I am, for example, in the shore, if you're close to the beach, there will be pretty much mosquitoes like more in terms of quantity and along the entire year. So all year round normally because
Okay.
it's warmer there, right? And next to the sea. So it's more likely to have more mosquitoes. So if you go up to the mountains as we are right now, it's in the winter you won't see any there's no mosquitoes at all, like for maybe 3-4 months you don't see them because it's a bit colder, so mosquitoes doesn't like cold.
Yeah.
But in the when the temperature goes up a little bit and starts to get warmer, then the mosquitoes and the bugs comes. But I mean, I would say that it doesn't bother me that much. No.
Okay, cool.
I've been in the Amazon, for example. I know what mosquito and bugs are. The Amazon, the rainforest.
Yeah.
That place is really complicated for that.
Okay, we talk a bit about large cities, what they look like. So the life in large cities or in cities versus the rural life, is it very different in Brazil?
I would say so. Very different. Yeah.
Okay. How does it differ basically, right? So like
Well,
even the mindset of the people is different from the rural area to the city area?
the mindset is totally different. The way they approach you is different because, well, when we're talking about a big city, right, a big capital, although people are friendly because in general people here are very friendly, right? It's a big city, right? Everybody's in a rush, right? Everybody has to work and they're late and they're a bit pissed off with the traffic jam, and so that it doesn't change from it's pretty how can I say similar to any big city, right? But when you go to a small city in the countryside, and I'm talking about 70,000-80,000 inhabitant city in the country, although it's considered a
Well,
fairly nice size.
it's still quite large for, I mean, a
Yeah,
70 or 80,000 people town in France would be already quite a significant size.
yes, it's different. It's different the way you measure in Europe than here because Brazil is a huge country, right?
Yeah.
And for us, a 70,000 inhabitant city, it's considered like a mid-size, small size city. It's not that big. So you have the best scenario for both, like not being in a big city and having all the problems you have there, but not being a very small city where you don't have all the amenities that, for example, most of the people like to have around, right? Like good restaurants and diverse restaurants from different type of food, right? Or a movie theater, those type of things, right? So what we decided, myself and my wife, what we decided to where we decided to be was in a small, even the smallest city. So the city we're in right now, it's 13,000 inhabitants. It's really small.
13,000. 13,000.
13, yes, 13,000. So, but we are 45 minutes far from a mid-sized city where my son actually studies. His school is there. So it's 45 minutes drive, and it's a very nice private school, really nice one. They have like 4 or 5 good ones. When we want to go to a nice restaurant, we can just go there if we want to, like to eat Italian food or something like this. We can find it there. But the advantage of being in a small city is, man, everybody knows you. I mean, we're new here, right? We just arrived here like 6 months ago, and everybody knows me. I don't even need money to go to the city, because if I don't have my wallet there, I just can buy whatever I want. They take note, and then I pay that later.
Yeah, which is quite amazing. Like, I mean, tell this to quite some number of people on Earth, they wouldn't even believe it, especially in the West, where it's just like people don't trust you anymore. They're like, you need to pay right away. Okay, so
to have an idea, if you want to buy a shoe, for example, my wife do that all the time, and sometimes clothes. If you don't have time to try the shoes or the clothes in the store, they just let you pick whatever you want, bring home. And then you can try calmly, right, and look if it fits nice. And then you go down and say, hey, I want this and this and that, and then you just give them back, return the items you don't want. So they just trust you for that.
So trying to advise the people on which place to choose, maybe a town around 50 to 100,000 inhabitants, or you could live into a smaller town, but actually located close to a second tier or second tier town, right? Basically a town which has maybe 500,000 or 1 million inhabitants, so that you can benefit from both. You can easily take your car, have a drive there, maybe 15 or 20 minutes drive, and access all what you need in terms of, I don't know, services and products, but at the same time living in an environment which is more community, right? Because this sense of community, you can't really have it in large city most of the time. It's true. There's so many people around you that there's no more communities. It's just, unless you really do an effort to go to build them. Okay.
Yes, that's true. That's true. It doesn't change that much from any other city in the world, right? Just like that.
I wanted to also cover the question of connectivity. And for this, I will share the connectivity in terms of, let me use that, connectivity in terms of planes. Okay, this is this.
Flights.
So this is Flight Radar 24, which is actually pretty useful tool. It shows you all the plane in live, because South Brazil is actually, for some people, it's far from everything. And for me, living in Europe, it's like, this is really far, right? Or someone moving from Asia, it's super far. So how well is South Brazil connected?
Oh, it's the most connected portion of Brazil. If you see on the map, where the airplanes are mostly in São Paulo, because it's the main big center.
So São Paulo is there, and we see a massive traffic of plane, right?
Yeah, São Paulo is a crazy city, 22 million inhabitants there. So it's a big hub for flights. Basically, every international flight coming to Brazil goes to São Paulo. There are others, of course, but the main ones and the main companies, they fly to São Paulo. And if you want to go south, if you want to come south, you will certainly stop in, have a layover, right? That's the word, I think. You have a stop in São Paulo, and then change the airplane, and then go down south where you're coming.
So if you go south, what are the main hubs south, right? Because some of the people actually have these constraints that they would like to still be able to move internationally, so they want to be not too far away from an airport, or any reason.
Yeah, well, here in Santa Catarina, the main airports are there is one international airport in Florianopolis, which is the province capital, right? The state
So
capital of the state.
Florianopolis, okay, yeah, there's one
Florianopolis,
airport here, yeah.
yeah, there's one there. If you go north, there's another one in Navegantes, which is a small airport, but it connects pretty well with lots of cities, and normally it connects with São Paulo pretty much. And there's one in the west, the very west, which is Chapecó.
Okay,
That's
let me just pause on Navegantes because I can't see it directly. So Florianopolis is there. Navegantes is here. Okay, so it's actually not too far from, it's just a bit more up on the coast. Okay.
yeah, and there's one interesting thing in Navegantes. If you see when the mountains are pretty close to the shore, if you see the topography there, it's very nice when the airplane is going down and you see the landscape. It looks amazing.
Okay, yeah, this one, this
Yes.
airport. Okay.
So this one is the one we use the most. For us here is the closest one. It's better than the capital one, the Florianopolis one. It's about
But
3 hours.
there's also an airport in Curitiba, right?
Yes, yeah, Puritiba, yeah.
But
Puritiba is a big city, so
it's much
there
further
is-
away, right?
Yeah, if you go to Paraná, there is this airport in Curitiba, which is the capital. There must be some big airports as well in the west because there are big cities in the west, in Maringá. There must be some airports there too. And if you're coming even south to Rio Grande do Sul, there's a big airport in Porto Alegre, which is the capital, right?
Yeah.
If you see there, there's a big one there.
This one.
And there must be more airports in the west too, but this one is those three ones are in the capitals. They're the main ones.
Mm. So connectivity seems to be good, right? Basically, Sao Paulo, you can easily go to Mexico, to Brazil, to I guess a bunch of airports in the USA. You can also fly to Africa, I guess. Is it?
Yes. Well, from São Paulo, you can fly anywhere because all the international companies, they have flights to São Paulo directly. For example, if you want to go, for us, for example, we used to do Toronto, São Paulo, straight flight, no stop. You know, and there are other flights for lots of for Europe, for lots of different countries, and non-stop. Just go straight.
Yeah, you can see the schedule. There's a shitload of flights all day long to multiple places. Yeah,
yes.
Definitely. Okay.
São Paulo Airport it's a wow, it's amazing. It's like a city. It's huge.
All right. And then so easy flight also to Europe, direct flight to Europe most of the time. And then I guess to Asia, it's usually a stopover because it's too far away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
yeah.
I guess there's a connectivity to Dubai or Qatar or whatsoever. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I'm sure that to Europe and to North America there are lots of straight flights because I've done this.
Okay, that's good.
Certainly to Africa as well, but to Asia probably there's a stop somewhere.
There's a stop
East,
in the Middle East, but it's good to cover that so that people know what to expect and know that I still have the capability to go back home, right? Let's imagine, for instance, the person still have a second home in still the primary home in Canada or US or Europe, being able to come back, or having part of your family in rest of the world being able to also go back if
it's from Toronto to São Paulo, for example, in the straight flight. I think they have that. If it's not daily, it's 3 times a week, 3 flights a week from Air Canada. It's an 8 hours. It's an 8 hours flight. It's not that much. To Europe, normally to Lisbon is around 12. A straight flight, if I'm not wrong.
Okay.
It's not a bad flight. It's comfortable.
Okay. All right.
And then from Sao Paulo to here to Florianopolis, it's a 1 hour flight. It's pretty close.
Okay, that's So cognitiveness, we cover that. Let's go to the topic that is interesting for some people, the atmosphere of control, be it mandates, regulation, check, digital tracing. How much of that do we see in South Brazil?
Well, we have seen this. I wasn't here. I was in Canada during the pandemic, right? But Brazil didn't have the mandates as we had in Canada, like the mask mandate, and I mean, the government was asking people and saying people to do that. In certain places where it was very bad, in certain cities, it depended on where you were. Like some cities,
and so just to give a bit of the context, you've got the federal government, right? And you've got a governor for each state, right?
Yes, it's just
Okay.
like
a bit like in
we
the
have
US.
No, because actually the US, there's more independent. There are more independent states, right? It's a federation.
Okay.
So we are a confederation. It's the states have their autonomy and in a certain way their regulation, their own regulation, but
Yes.
they're all bind to the federal government. So the federal government has the last word. So if the federal government say he has to do have to do that, they have to comply.
Okay.
So,
That's very
but
good
then
to know.
in certain places, some depending on the political spectrum of the mayor or of the governor, it was worse. For example, in Rio Grande do Sul, the governor there was pretty strict. So he was like closing parts of the supermarket, for example, because they said that he said that he wasn't essential. So he was asking the supermarket, and they mandate the supermarket just open the food aisles. So that was
So
very
which
bad.
states are you talking about?
Rio Grande do Sul, that happened there.
The one at the bottom, right?
In the bottom, the very bottom, yeah,
Okay,
close to Uruguay.
state of Rio Grande do Sul. Okay.
Yes, that one. It was in that state because the governor was very strict on this, right? So there was more like how can I say surveillance on the mask thing, and it was
Okay, so
very
that's a good point. But what about the countryside or the third tier town in these states, for instance? Let's imagine you live in a town of 50 or 70,000 people. Do you still have the same enforcement as in a town of 500,000 people?
Yeah, so I wasn't here again, as I said, but in general, I talking to people here. What they told me is that they were using masks for sure, but they're not. It's not as crazy as in a big city, right? So people don't care that much if you're using or not. So it was pretty flexible,
Okay.
especially because when you're a smaller town, I mean, if you're in a 17,000 city people, for business and for restaurants, for those type of thing, I can see people using more, and the owners, the business owners, like requiring more of this type of thing, right? Because it's at this point it's closer to the big city behavior. But in a small town like I'm here right now, I don't see. For example, if it's back at some point, which I think it's gonna come back, I don't see any trouble for me to go not using masks to the places I'm used to go, because I know the owners, they know me, and in the end, everybody had that feeling that this is all BS, you know. So they do that.
You feel and or you feel that people are aware that this was BS? Is it common thinking inside the local
Yes.
population? Okay.
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because Brazilians, they know they can't trust any government and any politicians. That's one thing we were born and raised knowing from our parents from generations.
Okay.
So whatever comes from them, the only thing is that the population doesn't want to get in trouble with the government, right? It's not worth it. So if they say, hey, it's better using masks when you're outside and going to this place, they will do that just because they don't want to get in trouble with the police, and if the police is enforcing this. And that's another advantage. Normally in a small town, the police doesn't care that much. I mean, as long as you're not committing a crime, right, serious crime, then they won't stop you in the street because you're not using masks.
So we're saying that people are quite obedient, but because they don't want trouble, right? The reason why they would be obedient is that they don't want to get into trouble with the local
just
police.
because they don't want to mess their lives with engaging with police or government. But if you're not, but many people that are not using masks, for example, they will actually they will approach you. Certainly they will approach you and say, hey, I would like to do that too, but sometimes I don't have the courage enough to do that. But they know that most of these type of thing that comes from politicians and from governments, they have the like 90% of the population in general. They know that it's wrong. It's wrong because we don't trust them.
Yeah.
You know.
So we are in the fourth quarter of. We are entering the fourth quarter of 2023. Is the how you say? Is the national not the federal government, but you said what's the term you were using? Is the central government basically talking about mandates again?
The federal government. No, there's no talk about this at all. I mean, okay. I'm following what's going on around. For example, in Canada, they're already asking people to use masks. As of now, it's as they start always all the time. They start saying, "Hey, this is not mandatory, right? This is just a suggestion." But then they come. The next step is to mandate, right? So they're just preparing the population for what's to come. But here in Brazil, there's no conversation. There's no conversation at all about any masks or any virus. For example, in India right now, there's a Nipah virus, whatever it is, and they're locking people down again and asking them to use masks. But here, nobody knows. Not even the media is talking about it. I mean, some of the media, right, the mainstream media is just the same. It's just the system.
The sound, let me see. The sound is not that good. Let's try again.
Is it good?
Yeah, now it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So the fear mongering, Julian, one more thing that I want to tell you is that, as I said before, in a developing country like Brazil, what normally is considered a weakness is our strength. So why I'm saying this? Because the population in a relatively poor country, they're struggling to make their lives. They're struggling to eat. They're struggling to make a little bit of money to put some food in the table. So they don't waste that much time on BS, right? On people's BS and government BS, because the most important thing for everyone is stay standing, and you have to eat for that. And in a developing country, when the government tried to pass some ridiculous thing, people just say, hey, you know what, I'm not doing this. I'm more concerned about working and
they are focused on their daily life, and that's a good point. So basically, the average wage in Brazil, in South Brazil, how much is it per month? So people get an idea, because sometimes they have no idea, they don't know, right? It's
Can you repeat the question?
The average wage in USD per month for
wage. The minimum wage here is very low. It's very low, even for Brazilian standards. In dollar, I would say that it's less than $400 US dollars. It's less. It's 360 around that a month, right? And an average worker wage is around that. So you have to have a bit of a better qualification to go higher, and to have like 2 minimum wages, as we say here, 2 minimum salaries.
So yeah, that's 30 euro a day. If you need to support your own family, indeed, they need to focus on their work and what they have to do to.
They have, and then to be honest with you, most of the people that has a minimum wage, they have to have a second source of income, regardless if it's another employment or it's another job, or if it's something else they just do as a self. As an entrepreneur, as a self-employed, so normally people have that type of thing. So they're too focused on making their lives and not wasting time with a fear mongering government stuff.
Yeah. So going a bit broader, right? So, okay, we talk about mandates. If we talk about this infrastructure of control that we actually see in the West, be it 5G, 5G infrastructure or other things, what do you have of this, right? How widespread is 5G, or no, there's nothing. We're still on the 4G, and they are not.
We don't talk that much about 5G here. There's no 5G. I mean, in São Paulo, I've heard that they're starting to install the antennas and the 5G grid at the big cities. I don't know if it's in Puritipa, they already doing some type of this, but yeah, most of the country, I would say 90% or more, probably 95% of the country territory, it's not covered by any 5G.
Okay. That's good,
And
because what we see in the West is basically I'm seeing it, for instance, in a bit in France, Spain, or the town. Even in the countryside, you've got those massive 5G antenna, which is like out of nowhere in a field, which is quite surprising. But as long as you don't have this infrastructure around you, I think it's positive. What about chemical trails, basically?
Chemtrails, it's where I am right now is very rare, although it's getting, they're spraying more since we got here. I mean, it was nothing. There was no chemtrails at all in this region here where I am. And then now we're seeing a few ones, but nothing, not even in the big cities, nothing at all compared with what we had in Canada like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. That normally what we had there is early in the morning when there was a blue sky, sunny day, by 2, 3 o'clock, 2, 3 p.m., it was completely covered.
Yeah, so for living in Europe is exactly the same thing, basically, right? You've got those early flights at 5 a.m., 6 that spray like crazy, and then
Exactly.
all day long until the coverage, you've got a full cloud coverage by 6 or 7 p.m. It's like it's
Yes.
totally
Yeah.
artificial. Yeah. Okay, that's
yes.
pretty
We see that here, but for example, we have lots of no clouds day, completely clear sky, that there's no even trace of chemtrail. But sometimes happens. It's happening a bit more. I don't know if it's related with the current government, whatever it is, but it's not even, I mean, it's not even that concerning. We didn't get to the point where we were concerned about that, you know, because it's not changing that much. The weather is not changing. I mean, yeah,
Okay.
it's not that bad.
And crossing local population with chemtrail, are local population usually aware of things like that, or no? They have like
No.
for instance in Europe, if you tell people, there's like they tell you no, you are they will talk to you about flat Earth and all these kind of things, which is like okay.
Yes. Yes. No, I mean, they don't judge you here. They actually, when we talk about this with our friends, they usually get curious and want to know more.
Okay.
So they used to say, really, I thought there was, smoke from the airplane, because many people, they never got an airplane in their lives, right? So they think that it's just like a car, that when you're driving and there's a smoke behind you, it needs a smoke. So, yeah, but then they don't think that it's concerning or it's dangerous. They don't know what it is actually. But they actually got curious and they asked us to educate them, and they listen.
Okay, so let's go on to local folks, right? They seems to be friendly, right, in Brazil. And I think you mentioned to me a report coming from a website. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, I mean, Brazil, I think I mentioned that before to you. It's a very friendly country for expats, for people coming from other countries, right?
Okay.
So the average Brazilian, it's really funny the way it works, because when an average person in the street, for example, when they come across with an immigrant, with an expatriate person, or within their group of friends, whatever it is, they are very curious, they're very approachable. Normally, they will try to talk to you and ask you, oh, you're from France, how is it in France? What do people speak in France? How is the environment? What's the main city? So they would probably do that because they're very friendly and they're very approachable. So and again, even though if you don't speak Portuguese, they will do everything they can to understand and help you if you need help. So they will make jest and whatever. They will try to help you in a way that if you're looking for directions, they are capable to put them in your car or pick your hand and then you go there with you to be sure that you're in the right spot, you know. So, and then this report I sent to you, it's the report from Internations, which is a website specialized in expatriates from all over the world. And they made a report for 2023, and it shows that Brazil is the second most friendly place to live, according to expatriates themselves, the expatriates that live in that country. So we're the second. Only Mexico is higher than us.
Yeah, so we have it there basically. So internations.org, top finding, Mexico take the lead, followed by number 2, Brazil. And the report is called Expat Friendly Place in 2023, Navigating the Ease of Settling In, right? So I'm not sure how recognized this website is and the audience and the criteria for the stuff.
And there's a little description there, and there's a little text down, and then explain what are they saying, right? And explains better the report.
Yeah. So Mexico first, Panama. Okay, I spent quite some time in Philippines, so I have a good reference for that, and yeah, to kind of makes sense. Yeah, Philippines there, I'm not surprised. Stuff like that. Okay, that's good. That's good. People can invite people to read this report, and because there might be also location that they like. Okay, all right. So local population, adoption, digital use. Oh, on the adoption of digital also, because so you mentioned me that there's for instance, there's a unique ID that you use for purchasing things, right? I want to pause on that as well because some people may care about it, right? The use of QR code or any IDs.
We don't use QR codes. We don't have that.
Okay.
The CPF that I told you, it's a document. It's pretty much, it's a number. It's not a document anymore. As long as you have that on top of your head, you're fine. It's not used only for purchasing. You don't need that for purchasing, actually. If you're purchasing something, let's say in a fairly high amount, you will be probably required to give that number because that number identifies every single person. Everyone has a different one, and it's national. So it's different. So we have 215,000 inhabitants. It's 215,000 CPF numbers, right?
Okay.
So that number
identifies you. So it's a number which is different from your ID number, is it?
Yes, it's different. The ID, well, right now with the new regulation, the ID number is the same number as the CPF, which makes sense, and you should have done that before.
Okay,
right?
Okay.
But what we had, and I always had that, my wife from our generation, we have 27 states in Brazil. So you could have 27 different IDs because the ID was from the state, you know. So now they unified that with the CPF number, which makes totally sense because it's a national number that identifies you anyways. So that way you can use this number as your ID as well.
All right.
So
a little bit more of standardization, but I think so. I used to work in IT for some time, but it tells you also how fast they have the capability to deploy an infrastructure of control, right? If you know that the ID is not even standardized across states, then you can easily imagine that it's super hard to implement global control over Brazil and make sure that everyone follow this because you actually don't have the capability to do it yet, right? So it's not a bad way. Those countries where the infrastructure doesn't really exist yet, that's perfect. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. We're not a digital culture. I mean, there's lots of cash still going on, and people like paying cash, you know. Although credit cards are, taking place, and people like credit cards, the convenience of using this. To be honest with you, Brazil started the how can I say, the implementation of a digital, sort of a digital currency. It's not a digital currency. People say that it's the first step, but I don't really believe that it's a first step. But we created what it's called PIX. It's a way of for you to transfer money from my account to your account, let's say, not necessarily paying taxes, paying fees to the bank. So this new government, they established fees. So people is not really happy with this, but it's not different at all from any transfer that you do through your bank account. Like in Canada, we used to do by email, right? You send a e-transfer to someone, they receive that money through email. So it's not that different. It's pretty much the same thing.
Okay. Let's go toward the cost of life, which is a pretty big topic and important for many people. The main costs that we usually face are, I would say the first one usually is accommodation, maybe equivalent with food, depends how much you spend on food. But accommodation, how affordable is accommodation in South Brazil?
You mean like a rental?
Yeah, I would assume that most of the people arriving would first rent for a few months, maybe a year, and then potentially buy something if they can afford it. But rental might be the topic that people are interested in first.
Well, when we came from Canada, we rented in a fully furnished apartment in Blumenau, which is a fairly big city, 300,000 inhabitants, very nice urban center. And the apartment was downtown, 3 bedrooms with 2 en-suites. Actually, yeah, 3 bedrooms. No, 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms and 2 en-suites. Being of those 2 en-suites. Very nice balcony with a barbecue in the balcony. 4 air conditioners. Even in the living room, there was an air conditioner because sometimes it's hot there.
Okay.
Fully furnished, as I said. The amenities within the building for the owners to use. We had a cinema for like 50 people, like a really nice movie theater that we could use. A gym, very nice gym. Place where you could rent for parties and call your friends for parties. It's an event area.
Right.
Swimming pool. So lots of nice amenities there. And we used to pay less than $1,000. I think it was 4,000 reais. It's
so divided by 5 for
5.
USD, right? So $800.
Around $8 US, yes.
$800 a month, right?
800, yes. And that was a very nice apartment. I mean, we just wanted to have a bit of comfort, right? We have a son, we have a kid, so we wanted to stay. We're not from here, so we wanted to stay closer to downtown.
You know what, Esdras? Let's also try to show people. Let me reshare my screen. So I think these two main websites, is it in Brazil for accommodation, Viva Real and another one called Zap. Is this correct?
Zap, yeah. Viva Real is Zap.
Yeah. So so I found out that on Zap you've got a map. Let's the city is Blumenau, right?
Blumenau.
Blumenau, which is basically the German city. If I
yes,
a lot of German there.
Yeah.
And then so if we were to put a maximum of how much, let's imagine that people have a budget of 600 USD. So that's 3,000 real, right? Something like that.
2,500.
2,500 reals.
500 USD times 5, right?
Okay, let's say 500 USD, and let's say the minimum. Okay, 2,000. Okay, so we go with that. And so you can find 423 properties to rent, alugar, inside Blumenau. And let's look at this one, for instance. I want to be practical so that people can see and stuff like that, right? So so you've got 72 square meters. You've got, what do you have? You have 2 bedrooms, 1 car park, 2 bathrooms.
Oh, and I forgot to mention the parking garage. Normally, those buildings, they have at least 1, sometimes 2 or 3 parking spots. That it's included in the rent.
All right. And yeah, indeed, those buildings usually have some common area where there's swimming pool, theater, whatever. Yeah, so it's quite a lot of choice. Would you have any advice for people looking for?
What's the advice?
Yeah, would you have any advice for them?
I do. If you are a foreigner, if you can find a local person that you trust, first of all, I know it's hard sometimes, but or a company. As in our first interview, we told you about that, right? So that's why we decided not to go to like Eastern Europe or those countries, because we didn't know anyone there that could help us with the settling in or helping us to find this type of thing. And that's why we opened our company. That's exactly to help people find places to stay and help them with the paperwork and with the requirements and especially with how can I say, with the peculiarities, the small little things that are hidden even for us Brazilians, that sometimes we don't see the contract and you know how that works, the rental contract, lease contract. So the best advice I can tell you is to hire someone. If you don't know a person within your group of friends and your family relatives, try to find a person or a company where you can trust to help you.
So let's be again very practical. How do we do that? So people know that they can reach out to you, but let's imagine they actually don't know you. Let's imagine I want to move to Blumenau. And how do I find a local contact point?
Well, you can do that directly with the agent, right? It's not. I mean, you may be like certain, like say, lucky and having no problem, but I would say
an agent, it's hard to trust, right? Sometimes like there's so many scam around real estate agents, especially they know that you are a foreigner, they assume that you have more money, and so okay, let's scam you.
Yes. I mean, for scam, it's the risk is always there, right? But for scams, I mean, if you see on Google the reviews, it's nice to see the reviews of the companies, right? So this lease company, what are people saying about this company, right? So just go over the reviews, and you're gonna have a nice idea, first of all.
So the reviews on Google, right? For instance, Google Maps. So let's
if you go Google, there will be reviews for all the lease companies. It's not hard to.
So you know what? Let's try that, because I think that the best way is to show the people, try and stuff like that. Don't want to surprise anyone. So let's go to okay, just the classic map mode. Give me 1 second. Up this one. And so how to say real estate agent in Portuguese?
Real estate agent. It's a corretor imobiliário. It's I can send that to you.
Sure, let's do it.
It's a bit challenging for a non-Portuguese speakers.
Well, I'm okay with Spanish, but sometimes the words are quite different. Okay, so I type it there. Okay, so cool. And so we see that in the result, we've got a bunch of them. Very surprisingly, they all have a really good rating. So it's I don't know if it's already the algorithm of but let's imagine this one, right? Let's take this one. They've got 4.8 rating out of 4.8 out of 5 on 144 reviews. So as per Google, usually it's a good indicator. If we go to the reviews, you
Yes.
sort them by newest, serious and responsible. Okay. So the things I'm always careful about when I look at review is that when people give just a good review, but there's only one single review from that person, usually I have doubts about it. But when you've got quite a significant number of reviews for each person, like this one has 7 reviews, some people maybe have more review. But when there's only one review for the person and it's a 5 out of 5, then that smells like there's something fishy, right?
Yes, and the more reviews you see, the more, like I would say, more reliable it is, because you may ask 10 people within your group your friends to go to Google and give you a good review, but you can't. Probably it's going to be harder for you to do that with 150 or 200, right?
Yeah, it's a bit the pattern that I seems to see across some real estate agents, like one single review and the review is good. So I would be, again, if it was for myself, I would be very careful. I wouldn't even trust them at the beginning. So not sure what other alternative do they have, right? Maybe, so I'm doing this for different countries sometimes. I go to Facebook and I try to find a group of I type the name of the city or the name of the states. And then plus foreigner, right? So that I access group of foreigner who are living in this geographical area, be it a city or a region. What do you think about that? Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's exactly what we did in Canada. For Canada, when we moved there,
Okay.
We found a group Brazilians in Kitchener, which was the city we were moving, and then it was really helpful. The people that were the Brazilians that were already living in that city, they gave us lots of nice tips on everything, not only on real estate and renting and lots of stuff. So that's a very nice advice. So trying to find other expats.
Yeah.
If you can't find a person from your country, just try to find other expats. For example, this website, Internations, they have expats from everywhere that live, for example, in Puritiba. Puritiba has one chapter, and Porto Alegre has another chapter. I think Florianopolis as well. So try to connect with those people, because they have the same eye of that you have, right? So foreigner trying to settle here, and then they will be here and they will be able to let you give you all the tips that you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
But
totally right. So go ahead.
For leasing, it's a more complex thing, because it involves contract and it involves duties and rights. Who has the right of this, has the right of that, and it can be tricky depending on the company that or the agent that is helping you. So it's better if you can. For example, my company, I know that it's for you if you're coming from somewhere else and you say, hey, why should I trust Esdras and not trust this agent, right? I know that it's a bit complicated, but for example, my company, we don't want to help you only on this. We want to help you on lots of stuff. We want to help you on everything that involves moving to Brazil. You know what I mean? So we want to make you happy in every single thing that we're helping you with. So we're not putting you in the hands of the wrong agent, because we don't want to get messed up with our name with our reputation because of the agent, right? So we're going to do all we can to make sure that you're in the good hands, in the right company, and we can review the contract for you and then explain the whole thing for you, because it's not translated, it's all in Portuguese, but we can explain the whole thing to you. And if you agree, that's fine, you can sign, but you know what's there. It's different from an agent that is trying to sell you or to rent that specific apartment to you, and he tends to hide some information because they want you to sign the contract.
Okay. So we were on accommodation. The second post, I think, is usually maybe healthcare before food, because maybe food price is not really high in Brazil. Healthcare. What should I expect in terms of cost for, let's imagine you have got the couple, so the husband, the wife, and 2 kids. Are we
Mhm.
able to say that? Can we mention one or two names of large insurers from a health perspective?
Yeah, let me first explain how it works here. Brazil has probably one of I don't know if it's the only one that I know of, but the real universal health, public health system. Why I'm saying this? Because here in Brazil, doesn't matter who you are or what your status, if you engage in a car accident, for example, whatever in terms of necessity you have for a healthcare system, you will be seen by a doctor. You will be transported to a hospital and be seen. They don't care if you're illegal, if you're French, if you're American, whatever your status is, you just go, right? So, for example, Canada, they say that it's universal, but you have to be legal in the country. You have to have a family doctor. There's lots of requirements for you to be part of that public system. I don't know how the emergency works exactly. I never used it, but in Brazil, it's universal because you can access the hospital anytime. It's not the best, for sure. It's a public system. It's not the best one. But normally, usually what happens in a case of an accident, for example, all the ambulances, even the private ones, they will bring you to the public hospital because for emergency, they're the best ones. And they can take care of you pretty quick, depending, of course, where you are. Some places there is just horrible. Those just don't go there because you're gonna die. But in southern Brazil, which is the most prosperous region in Brazil, the public health system works fairly well compared to the rest of the country.
So you have this system of public-private, or it's mostly
yes.
public?
Public-private, yes.
Okay.
I mean, the public is for everyone. Doesn't matter who you are, you can access the public, right? The public system.
Right.
But it doesn't work. It doesn't work very well. I mean, if you want to see a doctor, depending on the specialist you want to see, there will be a long waiting list, right? Which is not different from Canada, for example. MRI in Canada, you have to wait like 6 months for you to have access to an MRI exam.
Okay.
So here's the same. But what happens is that there are lots of options for a private public system. And the private works, depending on the private you're paying, it works really, really well. The one I have is called Unimed. Unimed. It's a cooperative of doctors. They found this company. It's nationwide.
Okay.
And there's all the specialists are there, and they have their own hospitals and clinics. So everywhere you go, regardless if you're traveling, so for example, I'm in Santa Catarina, right? I have the Santa Catarina Unimed, but it's nationwide. So if I travel to my city in the Northeast, I can be seen by a doctor there.
I just put it there so people can see
yes,
which one it
this
is.
one
Yeah.
I think is one of the best one in the country nowadays.
Okay.
It works pretty well. I mean, for you to see a specialist doesn't take much. Just call directly to the specialist office, and then you book a time and a day. And it's normally depending on the doctor, right? But it's normally within a few days, sometimes a week or so, you can see the doctor.
Okay.
And then once you are there, you don't pay anything else if you're paying your fee, right? Monthly fee for the private health insurance. But it depends. For example, my plan with my family, the type of plan that we have is 50%. So we have a fixed fee of 1,350 reais. If you divide by 5, it's going to be around 250.
Yeah, 250.
250, right, around that. It's fixed for the three of us, right? So I'm 45, my wife is 42, and my son is 11. So that counts because the age is involved in the calculation of the fee, depending on your age, right? So we pay this as a fixed fee monthly. And if we use a doctor, or if we make an exam or whatever it needs, we pay 50% of that exam, or we pay 50% of that doctor consultation. Doctor consultation, a specialist, is normally between 20 and $40 US dollars. and you pay once, but you see him twice. You see him for the first time when he examined you, and then you can return and see him again for him to read the results of the exam.
Okay.
So that's how it works. So in average, we use that a lot. I mean, doesn't in Canada, I wanted to make a checkup for my heart, right? Because I don't have a heart condition, but I have this in my family. My parents and my grandparents, my uncle, they had a heart attack and problems with the heart. So here in Brazil, I can do a checkup every year. I can do a checkup every year. I just go to the cardiologist through my plan, and I will pay probably by the end of the month when we use, I will pay probably $500 US.
Hmm.
So the fixed fee plus all the exams and the doctors that I saw for the three of us. So I mean, it's not cheap, but if you're a middle class, you can afford that, and you can see a specialist right away and solve the main thing. The main benefit is that you see a specialist right away. You don't stay, wasting your time with a family doctor, and they will say, "Hey, you don't need to see a specialist or whatever," and then wait for you to be really bad.
Yeah.
And they send you an ambulance to pick you up in your house to bring you to the hospital. Like in Canada, it's normally like that. So here you go to whatever specialist you need to go, and it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, so accommodation, healthcare, the food.
Yeah,
food aspect, and diversity of food, and also cost of food. What do you think?
Well, Brazil is known by the good food, right? Maybe I don't need to talk a lot about food because it's really, really good. We eat really real food here. Brazilians are not used to fast food, although we have in the big cities, like we have McDonald's and Burger King, But if you compare, maybe McDonald's, there's a little bit more people there because of the brand, but we have lots of restaurants. I mean, in a average neighborhood, we will have, I don't know, man, maybe 10 or 12 or 20 restaurants, from a very expensive, nice one to the daily basis one. So here in my town, we used to go to a very nice restaurant, very nice, it's all you can eat. So it's a buffet. It's all displayed there, and then you can serve yourself how many times you want. So there's normally a very nice options of salads, like leaves and potato and those type of things. And normally we have three or more types of meat. So normally it's a pork, beef, and chicken, something like this. Beans and rice and lots of types of different pasta, potato chips. It's very diverse. It's very diverse.
Okay.
And for this restaurant specifically, we pay all you can eat. We pay $5 per person.
$5 USD.
$5 USD. Well, actually, it's less because it's 23 reais. It's less than 5. It's 4 point something, right? This is a daily basis one. So people that work like workers, normally they used to go to those places. They will hire marmita. Marmita is I don't know in English what's the name. It's a plate that you buy or you bring that from home. That it's your food is in there. And
Okay, yeah, it's pretty common.
Yeah. So and then
people eat more outside or usually more at home?
Well, they mostly eat at home. Most of the people eat at home. I mean, lots of people in the working class, when sometimes they don't have time to go home and eat, right? They bring their own lunch. But most of the people, they go home because the companies, they usually, there's no siesta as it is in Spain. Like they don't stop at lunchtime for a nap or something like this. But the regular working hours, the business hours of working is from 8 to 12. And it varies from 1, and they're back at 1 or 2 p.m. So there's normally 1 hour, maybe sometimes 2 hours lunchtime. So if you work for a company that gives you 2 hours, well, you're able to go home and eat, and then you know, some people just use that to bring their kids to pick up their kids on school or drop their kids at school, something like that. You have more time. Some companies, especially in big cities, they don't stop for lunch, or they will give you half an hour, so you don't have time to go home for lunch. But
Yeah,
most
definitely.
of the time, people like cooking. People love cooking here, and
Okay.
they eat healthy. They eat healthy. As I said, fast food here is mostly on the weekends that people, you know, are just having fun and go outside, and then they have fast food. But it's not like in Canada, the US, for example, that they usually it's a meal for them. It's a lunch.
Mm.
Sandwich is a lunch or a pizza. It's a lunch. No, here in Brazil, it's beans and rice and pasta and meat. And, you know,
Nice.
we eat very healthy. Fruits.
Cool. So cost of life. We cover accommodation, healthcare, food. And what I would like to do is to refer people to a website that you remind me of, and I thank you for that. It's Numbeo, and we're gonna display it on the screen because this is really a great source of
Yes.
information. So Numbeo, what do they do? Basically, I think they started in Serbia, but they crowdsource, so they ask the people, what is it that you pay in the city for, I don't know, gas, for bread and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, that they gather so much data that, let's say, for instance, let's take Blumenau. Let's see if they have data for Blumenau. Let me see, maybe I don't spell it correctly. That was Florianopolis. No, that's correct. Oh, Blumenau. Sorry, me and the spelling sometime. It's Blumenau. Okay, this is this town. So we select it. The prices are displayed in Brazilian reals. And you basically get the price of most of the stuff you consume.
You can change the currency. You can change the currency if you prefer, like in euro in your left side. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Let's see.
okay. Let's imagine we look at this in US dollar, if we are used to that. Okay, this okay. So a meal inexpensive restaurant, $6. You mentioned $5 for buffet consistent. Meal for 2 person. Then the market, what you usually buy at the market, milk, tack. And then on the right, basically, I think you've got the range. Maybe it's for the whole Brazil, different city in Brazil. So it tells you where does the city stand, transportation, utilities, sport and leisure, childcare, clothing, and then the interesting part is around the rent per month, by apartment and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Apartments, 3-bedroom in city center, 600 USD, 631 outside of city center, 400 USD. Yeah, so price which are can be affordable for usually Western people, I would say.
And in this case, just remember, Blumenau, it's a fairly big city, so it's a bit more expensive than the average smaller city. You know, it's a very sought after place. It's a very nice city to live. So those prices, for example, I mentioned 5 for a meal because I'm in the countryside, so it's less than 5 actually.
So what would be another town, a smaller town than Blumenau?
I don't know if they have smaller because Numbeo, as you said, it's a crowded source, right?
Yeah, maybe it's not. But if we were to compare Blumenau to, for instance, the Curitiba, sorry for the way I pronounce that, but Curitiba, bam, we compare. Okay, so on the left it's Blumenau, on the right is Curitiba. We put the price in USDs, right?
And you can see a summary on the top of the page. It says for property it's higher in Curitiba or it's lower. Curitiba is certainly more expensive than Blumenau because it's a big capital.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can see from here, but it's probably a bit more expensive.
So you can see the variation on the right? So this
Yes.
tool is not perfect, but I would
No.
say it's a very fast way to see the price that you're going to
Yes.
pay at the location. And what you can do usually, what you do, for instance, if you use the comparison tool, you basically put the city. Let's imagine you live, for instance, in Lyon, in France, and you want to compare that to Curitiba.
Yeah.
So that give you roughly, you know, like, okay, yeah, this consistent meal, inexpensive restaurant for one person in Lyon. That's 15 euros. That totally makes sense. And then, okay, that's 62% cheaper in Curitiba. And you can actually see down there how many people have contributed. I think I saw it somewhere.
Yeah.
To those numbers. So it's very useful. Yeah.
You know, yeah, this website is very, very useful, very and fairly accurate, because when we decided to move somewhere else in 2015, 16, we used the number a lot. I used to spend the whole night, you know, comparing cities, because we had 5 options. We had Canada, US, we had Ireland, and Australia, New Zealand. So I spent lots of hours on Numbeo, like just playing around, like picking a city and comparing with another city.
Yeah.
And you know, doing my homework, let's say, as an expat, as a candidate to expat, right? So this is a very nice tool if you're thinking on moving somewhere else, if you're planning to get out of your country, even if it's not for good. But in terms of, and they have more stuff. They have the cost of life, they have the property price, they have the quality of life,
they
crime rates.
They even have the healthcare and crime index, right? So which is,
Yes.
and pollution. So stuff that people usually care about the safety. So for instance, if we want to take the crime index current.
Those ones I would say that it's more sensitive. I didn't use that one a lot, because for crime rates, for example, or for pollution, these type of things, they pretty much have to be based on government statistics, right?
Yeah.
Because yeah, it can't be crowdfunding.
And crowdsourcing that, good luck.
Crowdsourcing, yeah, it's hard to do that, but it can give you a little bit of reference when you compare crime rates and within a city and another one.
But yeah, good tool that we can definitely recommend. I didn't find any better tool, except as, yeah, of course, you can always go on YouTube, type the name of a region or city and cost of life, and then you will always have a YouTuber that has made a video. But again, it's very subjective sometimes, whereas there the data are based on dozens, or if not hundreds, of individual reporting, so it makes more sense, more consistent.
Yeah. And in our website, Julian, there's a link there that it's called links. There's a place where it's called links, and inside there is a spot where we put Brazil through the eyes of, and then there's lots of different nationalities there.
Okay.
So I wanted to be sure that, for example, if you're French, you can access that anywhere. Just type it on Google. But I just selected a few ones from like speaking French most of the time, or German speaking German to other Germans speaking about Brazil and their experience here in Brazil. So that's a very nice source when you listen to from another expat or another person from your country, that point of view and their perspective on good and bad stuff that they found here. It helps you to make up your mind. Right?
Cost of life is done. Can we go toward taxes? If the person basically arrive in Brazil on a working contract, being for a local company or for an international company, how much tax do you pay in Brazil?
Well, Brazil tax a lot, just like Canada and other countries. Our tax return, the basic tax return from above, if you earn above, if I'm not wrong, 5,000 reais, which is $1,000 a year or a month, sorry. I think it's 15% of your income they will charge you, but it can go up to 27 in your tax return.
Okay, progressive.
That happens. Yes, that happens only when you are you have a formal job, like you're a formal employee of a company, which for expatriates it's rare. I mean, unless you come from hired from a company that it's an international company that wants to hire you, or a Brazilian company that wants to hire you. But it's hard. It's very hard for a foreigner to get a work permit anywhere. I mean, for me, for example, to get a work permit in Canada wasn't that straightforward, because normally the country wants to protect their own jobs and for the locals, right? So they don't issue work permits for everyone. The company has to prove why you're bringing this person from somewhere else to work here in Brazil, because you could look for that worker within the country.
Yeah.
So that doesn't affect in terms of taxes. Tax return doesn't affect that much most of the expatriates. Another way of taxing people, which is fairly high as well, but we never know, is on consumption of goods, right? So, for example, in Canada, I think the US as well, you know exactly how much you're paying in terms of taxes, right? So they have the HST, which is 13%. So you see the price in the shelf of a product, you know that price you have to add 13%, which is the HST. But here you don't know. The price is the final price. You pay for what's there, and the tax is within that price that you see, the tax.
I'm not sure to get it. So yeah, in Europe, in different countries, you know exactly how much is the added value tax, right? So on any good or services, right? So for instance, if I remember in France, it might be 20 or 21%. In Hong Kong, for instance, it's 0%. Depends according to the country, right? But so in Brazil, there's no, is there a defined percentage? No, it's
no. That's it's actually a tricky thing when a Brazilian go outside to Canada, to the US, for example. When we see a price in the shelf of the product in the shelf,
yeah,
we think that's the final price, and then we got surprised when we get to the cashier, and it should be $100. No, it's 113 because of the tax, right? So you add when you're paying, which is amazing. I love this because you know exactly how much you're paying in terms of taxes. But here, no. If a product is displayed in the shelf for 100 reais, it's 100 that you're going to pay, and the tax is embedded in that price, so you don't know exactly how much you're paying in terms of taxes. That's the way it works here.
Okay. We can provide a bit more information on after post the video directly in the comment section on that, so that people are very clear about it. Okay, that's cool. And so talking about those people arriving, so you told me there's a digital nomad visa, right? So some people may arrive, so some people may access and enter Brazil and just be digital nomad because they have their own company, because they're also not able to find a job locally. So those people will be under the scope of a tax of 15 to 27%. How does that work? Do you know for that?
I had to look further information with our accountant how it works, because it's very specific. You're asking for digital nomad, for example. We work with a retiree, with real estate investors, so it varies on it. It depends on your status, right? I don't know exactly how it works and it's also different from a Brazilian citizen. For me, for example, because it involves money brought from abroad, right, that you have to declare. So there's a bit of a different documentation that a foreigner needs to provide to the government. I don't think in terms of fees and percentage I don't think it changed. that much, but it's a different process from a citizen. So I have to double check later to tell you exactly how much is it for digital nomads. But yeah, I don't know.
It's fine.
I can't precise
We'll
right
try
now.
to research and put a link below the video on different on the tax system so that people know what to expect. If we go toward another topic, which is autonomy, right? So some people want also to move internationally to increase their autonomy, be it food autonomy, energy autonomy, independence of thinking autonomy, eating autonomy. How easy it is in Brazil to grow your autonomy? And especially I'm asking you because I think you're trying to grow your food autonomy.
Yes. I mean, here I think again, as a developing country, it's very easy for you, whoever you are, wherever you come from, to grow your autonomy. First of all, because the people respect you. I mean, the multiculturalism of Brazil is different from other countries. For example, from Canada, I was there, and that's my experience to compare. And for even for US, for example, people here they're all Brazilians. Doesn't matter their background. They will speak Portuguese with you. So they have Lebanon background, or Iranian background, or American, or Polish and German, like we have here, but they are all Brazilians. So they will probably speak German within them, but they will speak Portuguese with you. So in Canada, for example, in the US, they usually they have the neighborhood of, you know, lots of Indians are in the neighborhood where lots of Chinese people are, and they try to get together and create their own community of those countries. Right? Here in Brazil, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen at all. If you don't know that that person has an Italian or a German background, they're just Brazilian because they don't care. You know, though they're proud of their food and their heritage, but it's different. So I just got lost in the question. Can you repeat it?
No, it's fine. But this is interesting. So you don't have those districts basically branded as a community of
No. Oh, yeah.
like you won't find Chinatowns in South Brazil. Because usually the big indicator is like if you can find
example,
Chinatowns, it's
yeah, in São Paulo there is a Liberdade. It's a neighborhood where most of the Japanese stores and the Chinese stores are. So they decorate as a Chinatown, right? But it's mostly for business stuff, where you know that you can find all the. It's business, you know, and then mostly most of the Chinese or the Japanese people will be in that area. So you know where to find them. But it's not like they're living within their community and very close and not having, you know, that much connectivity or connection with the rest of the population, you know. So that means, go ahead.
So Brazil is mostly a rural country, right? In to some extent, I would say it's mostly rural. So in this context, it's actually easier to grow your autonomy, is it?
Yes,
if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, and it's very easy because it's affordable, right? And as you said, there's land everywhere. It's very affordable to buy land here. Even within the small cities, people just, it's funny because they have horses and they have cows in their backyard. In the city here, within downtown, you know, there are some properties that are a little bigger. They have a bit of pasture there. They have chicken. Some people, you know.
No, that's good.
They
Good. It's a big indicator that people grow their autonomy and stuff.
Yes, if you're in a big urban center, it's hard for you to have that, right? But if you're in the boundary of that city, pretty much everyone has their animals and they have their own garden. They plant vegetables, so their food autonomy, and people like doing this, right? Lots of fruits. I don't know any country with many fruits as we have here. Lots of different type of fruits that you can eat all year round. Doesn't matter if it's winter or summer. There will be seasonal fruits. Amazing.
And local, right? Local fruits, basically, right? Almost every month you've got new type of fruits based on the maturity of the. Okay.
Yeah, local. Yeah, local. I mean, and then some people they just even never planted any tree because it just grows by themselves, and they just
that's good.
Like fruit. it's
what
good.
what about energy autonomy? How do we approach that basically? And especially so winter are not that cold, right? If I understand.
Where I am right now, no. If you go uphill towards west to the higher cities in the winter, I mean, I would say it's a month of hard winter, right?
Okay.
So the temperature goes down to -6, -5 sometimes, but it's mostly overnight. I mean, it's not like in, for example, again, my example in Canada or in some places in Europe where you have like 3 months or 4 months of snow and very cold every day. It doesn't vary, right? But here, for example, where I am living in the winter, overnight it goes down, let's say in a very cold night, it goes down to 0. But then since the sun rises, the temperature goes up to 14, 15 along the day, 12, and then overnight, when the sun goes down, the temperature goes down a little bit again. But it's always like that.
And so how people are eating themselves? Wood, gas?
Heating. In my case here, we use lots of gas for heating. Here in the countryside, we use a lot of wood. That's I have a fireplace in my living room, wooden fireplace, and I have a wood stove. For example, my wood stove we use for cooking and we use for heating the water. So we don't need gas. We don't need power, electricity to heat the water, for example.
Okay.
There's also the possibility of solar panels, right, for energy supply off grid.
Okay.
Because
Is it quite widespread there or not? Is it quite common to see house with solar panels?
Oh yeah,
okay.
Yeah, lots. And I would tell you, I was talking to my neighbor here. He has a pretty nice house. It's not a big house. It's a countryside, local house. He spent maybe $6,000 for a system of solar panels that gives him full autonomy for his house.
Okay.
And it's not expensive at all. $6,000 for it's a small house. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, but it's it's very affordable. And then what he pays. So our system, if it's not the off-grid system is a bit more expensive because of the batteries. But if you're linked to the grid, which is normally what they do, they have their solar panels, their converter, and then it connects to the grid, right? So you are a source of energy, putting energy on the grid. So so they spent about, let's say, $6,000 for the system itself, and they pay, I don't know, maybe $10, maybe less than $10 monthly for the electricity. It's negligible what they pay.
And the coverage of the electricity is stable?
Is stable. Yeah, it's very stable. Yeah.
Okay, you don't have blackouts and stuff like that period where
no, it's really rare to have a blackout even here in the rural area. But for example, yesterday we had a breakdown of the grid because there was a tree fell in the grid. So that happens, right? And we're in a rural area, so that's lots of sometimes when there's a very, very strong thunderstorm, it has to be really strong for that, and then the power goes down. But then they're very efficient on this. It just takes a few hours. It usually takes a few hours for them to reestablish the. And in the cities, it's even rarer. It's even rare to have that.
Okay. What about water? Quality of water, as well as the network?
I mean, if you're in the water, if you're in a city, they have the public supply, right? You have to pay a fee for that. I don't know how much it is.
Okay.
Differently from the developed countries, let's say that people drink a lot of tap water. It's not recommendable here in general to drink the tap water. There's a big discussion in Canada and all the countries whether the tap water is drinkable or not, right? Because it goes all the way in pipes, and you never know how.
Yeah, exactly.
Looking alike, but in general, here in Brazil, we all know that it's not tap water is not not good for drinking. But people use filters. We have lots of different types of countertop filters that you can have, and you put that water in this filter, and it turns it into a potable water. The supply is pretty. It's nice. I don't think it's bad. Here in the rural area, that's exactly what we looked for. It was a place where we could have water straight from the spring, right, from the soil. So I have a well here. I have two wells actually, and in my property, I think we have 4 or 5 water springs. So in this area I am right now, the water is not potable, although it's natural, comes from the soil and everything, but it's a bit harder in iron, so in heavy metal, which is just the composition of the soil, the rocks.
Okay.
So I have to just filter that specifically for removing the excess of iron water, and it's just drinkable.
Okay.
And the source is there's a lot of different sources here. I have 2 wells plus 2 or 3 water springs that I can use. Yeah, and I can, for that well, for example, I can leave the pump just pumping water all day long. It never stops. The water, it's the volume of water, it never stops. It's
Yeah,
very nice.
it seems that this whole area of South Brazil has actually a lot of water underneath as well. So it's
yes,
yes, definitely okay. What about the stability of internet and access to internet, including in rural area? I mean, we're doing a call with you for already almost 2 hours. We are in a rural area and it seems pretty stable.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Nowadays, it's very stable. Where I am right now, we don't have a cable, the fiber, the optic fiber. But some places here, even if it's rural, they already have the optic fiber,
Okay.
which is way better. But then we are talking on using the radio frequency internet, and it's perfect. I have Netflix, and we watch Netflix and Amazon Prime and movies and YouTube videos and everything, and I can't complain because there's not even a glitch on any. It's really rare to have a glitch or a delay or something like that. The internet's really good.
Cool. So autonomy, yeah, roughly mostly positive. I want to cover quickly the eating autonomy, if that talks to you. How people, what's the culture there? How people are eating themselves? Do they go mostly for big pharma product, or is natural eating quite widespread?
You say eating? For
Eating in case I'm sick or I get an injury.
Healing.
Yeah, the autonomy that people have from a healing perspective.
Well, if they want to do that by themselves, like using natural stuff, like natural products and teas and herbs, that's it. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Do they have easy access to natural product as well, or there's a?
Oh yeah. Most of us we have in our garden in rural areas. It's funny because they have that knowledge from our ancestors, right? That if you have headache, you can make this leaf. There's a leaf there that you just pick it up and make a tea. Or if you have a stomachache, this plant is good for this. So we've been learning a lot with the locals here about this stuff because we're urban, right? My wife and I we always lived in big cities. We knew a little bit based on the knowledge of our parents, right? Because it's they know that. But here in the countryside, they know a lot. They don't use medicines. They don't use that much medicines, the regular.
No, that's exactly what I'm asking. Yeah, the local knowledge and so on, because it's super important to be supported from eating autonomy. Most of the people coming from towns or cities, especially in the West, they have strictly no idea on how to heal themselves or cure themselves with natural treatment, where it's actually highly effective. But the thing that I'm seeing, I was having a call, I think 2 days ago, with someone from Mexico who's telling me there's a suppression. It's hard to access natural medicines, even in Mexico sometimes. So that's what I was asking. But in case if it is in your garden, as plants sitting in your garden that you can collect when you have a problem and you have the knowledge of that, or your neighbor has the knowledge about it, then it's perfect. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So, for example, another day, we were talking to our neighbor here, and she was hurt. She had a cut in her arms because some glass just broke and cut her. And then she was telling us that she was using pork fat and honey. Just that, and then she cured herself. We never heard about that. And she said that's the best medicine if you have a cut in your skin. Just put pork fat, and then they make mix with honey, and I don't know exactly, but she was just explaining to us, and that was amazing because we never heard about that. We have to have we have to go to the drugstore and buy something to put there. But then they know how to deal with those type of things because it's a daily basis part of their lives, right? To get hurt because you're leading with, painting stuff and tools and everything. So they have to know how to heal themselves, not necessarily buying those medicines and market medicines. So that's a lot. There's a lot of that here, and people respect that, and people use that a lot, especially in the countryside.
All right, so we cover a lot of grounds, a lot of things, and I think this is also can be repurposed for a lot of countries because it's usually almost the same framework in terms of research. Whether you research, I don't know, Tanzania, or Costa Rica, or Peru, or whatever country, you have the same approach most of the time, right? I want to end maybe with the fun part, which is mostly activities, what to do on the weekend. What do you think of that? So there's the coast, as you said, and it's true, right? Some of the beaches are actually almost tropical-like beaches. It's very surprising to see this here, and you would tend to think that you get that more on Mexico side, Bahamas side, but it's actually quite some nice beach. What else can we do on the weekend in Brazil? I'm thinking about the typical family with 2 kids. What do we do?
Yeah, well, man, I would say there's a lot to do in the weekends here. You just stay at home if you want.
So give us example.
Yeah, sure. For example, our weekends, we usually get engaged with our friends, our neighbors. We usually barbecue at home, or for example, right now, my neighbor is doing a barbecue, and he invited me. It's Friday, but when we finish here, I'm going to have fun with them. All the neighbors are there. So if you don't want, so Brazilians are known by parties. So we love partying. We love getting engaged with our friends, and we love barbecue because a barbecue, it's different from maybe European or especially North American barbecue, which is a meal. For us, it's an event, right? You stay the whole day barbecuing because just it's an excuse for you to engage with your friends. So we just start at 1, and there's no time for stopping because we put a song there and we keep talking and we keep barbecuing and eating. It's really nice. If you don't want to do that, you can go to the beaches where it's all around. It's the beaches are amazing and it's public. And you can go there. There's lots of trails. There are lots of national parks here in the south, as you could see in the map. Lots of greens.
So lots of greens, lots of wildlife as well, lots of animals.
Wildlife, wow! Wildlife here is amazing. It's wow. You can see birds. You can see all types of animals pretty easy. It's not hard to find animals and to see and engage with those animals. Some dangerous ones. Sometimes it's snakes and this type of thing. But yeah, wildlife is amazing. And for example, here where I am right now, there's lots of waterfalls, but it's not part of any official trail. It's just like if you want to explore, and caves, some caves as well. The local people, they know they've been living this for their own life, their entire life, so they don't care. But they say, hey, there's a waterfall here. Oh, there's a waterfall there. So you just can go by yourself. They just tell you where it is. But there's lots of also national parks where the trails are, guided, and you can have directions for you to not get lost. What else? People used to go outside for a restaurant to have a different dinner or something like this. There was lots of options for that as well. Yeah, I don't. Well, there's lots of water parks. Here in my town, there are like 2 water parks with a natural water. It comes from the ground, so they just have that water spring that is pretty strong, and they built a water park. There are 2 in a small city like 13,000 people. There are 2 water parks here. That's pretty nice as well for you if you have a kid. Yeah, I mean, if you just stay at home on the weekends, regardless your age, if you want. Because last Sunday, for example, there was a community party here because one of our friends here, he has a cancer, so we are raising funds for him. So we engaged the community. There was like 300 people there, and we paid everyone paid $5 for a free lunch and raise money for him. And there was a bingo and there was games to raise funds. So everybody got engaged. So once in a while we have it's a very busy social life that we have here for sure.
Okay.
Very busy social life. Yeah.
That's good. That's great. All right. I think that's already a lot of information. We are soon eating 2 hours for that. But we wanted to deliver more than on the previous interview. We wanted to give people an overview, information. They have reference to website that they can leverage to find more details. Again, we're not here also to give all the information. There's a bit of research to be done by yourself. If you want actually to move to another country, you should actually do a bit of effort, deploy some energy to find the information. The information will not come to you. You need to go and search it, right? It's part of the adventure. It's part of the journey to get there.
Yes, yes. And whenever you need further information, I mean, we're here to help them, right?
Yep.
They can address us anytime. And yeah, we can help them on all the process from planning to selling in.
Yeah, because it's part of your job, so you're happy to do this, definitely, right? Okay.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Great, Esdras. It was awesome to get you for 2 hours, and I hope the information is useful for the people. We'll talk soon.
That was amazing talking to you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Esdras. Cheers.